no idea what local recordings are. No idea at all what that is. But anyhow, we're gonna find out. Anyhow, hey there, hi there, ho there, out there in Spray Wash land. Ray will be joining us here in just a little bit. He's in the back room putting down Finn, and tonight we're going to talk a little bit about not just systems and not just implementing systems, but we're going to talk a little bit about time to implementing, when you should be implementing systems and how, and, a couple of other things as far as that's concerned about systems. And it's something new that we're going to start doing here with Spray Wash Academy of Spray Wash Pro, where we're going to take some of the Spray Wash Pro members and highlight what it is that they're looking for in their businesses and what they're doing. Because I think especially at this point, we get to a certain phase in business where, okay, we're beyond a lot of the different trainings and things that we need to get even deeper and further in all those sorts of things. So that's one of the things that we want to help with. And so I think by doing interviews like this with Mitchell Moore, and we're going to talk to him here in just a second, we'll get a better sense of what you guys need and the heartbeat of what's going on and how to make it happen. So with that, our first guest in this series is going to be Mitchell Moore. Mitchell is so first of all, I really like Mitchell, and don't tell him I said that, even though he's sitting right there, right? But anyhow, Mitchell is really bad at something, and I haven't called him out on it, but I'm going to call him out on it before we get started, and that is Mitchell is really bad about landing his parachute over water or something like that. And he needs a lot of practice. And so, I'm encouraging him to do that a little bit more. Actually, I hear you're really good. And I hear that, I've seen some of your stuff. You're like really into flying, right?
Yeah. I competed all last year, all across the U.S. In parachute competitions. And this year we're going to be focusing on a different discipline, but it's essentially flying really high performance parachutes with skydivers in free fall in the wingsuits, or some people call them squirrel suits and stuff like that. So that's kind of shifting my focus to that and doing some bigger group work and stuff this year, and just some bigger projects. So,
and to me, that actually is the segue into tonight, right? Because implementing systems, you really can't go, if you are a business owner and you're trying to run a business and grow a business, scale a business, especially, you can't spend as much time out flying and doing other things unless you've got systems in place to help your company run while, you're out doing the things that you love and enjoy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's going to be a good gist of it. Again, Ray will be joining us here pretty soon. Chad, I see your name here this evening. I think it is a Facebook setting. I don't know what's up, but I can definitely see your name here this evening. And then we got Serving Soft Wash saying howdy, good evening. But see, it's not completely fixed because we've got this one here saying Facebook user, what up, Dougie Do? Anyhow, and then Truth Seeker coming in. So Mitchell, tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about your company, and what your goals are or what you're trying to accomplish.
So about me and a little backstory of the company. I started probably like most other people. We were a side hustle looking to, make some extra money and support my family. It started out as more of a handyman gig in 2016, and kind of, I'd done some pressure washing for my family, and like they had some rental properties and always kind of been involved in remodeling and stuff like that. So I did stuff for them like that. Your traditional go out there with a pressure washer and pressure wash the vinyl siding and all that. So I kind of incorporated, I can go out and clean houses with doing this and make some extra money. And then it turned into solely pressure washing. And I knew nothing. I didn't, I knew how to spray high pressure water on stuff. And just moving forward, actually Power Wash Store in Nashville, I'd purchased some stuff from them years ago and got invited to a training event. And I was like, training for pressure washing? Is that really a thing? What is this? So I actually went to the free event to that, and man, it sparked something that was like, holy crap, this is not like spray water on things. This is a whole science. After that, it was, attending spray wash courses, a huge convention, now a member of Spray Wash Pro, which has been awesome with all the documentation. And if we need something, I can literally go in and look it up for the most part. But, and just the help and knowledge within the group that has really helped us in certain situations. So, but yeah, just started as a side hustle, grew it to where we are now. I run a full-time crew. We're looking at a second crew. We're looking in the next couple of years to be $1 million revenue company. Mm-hmm.
So curiosity question. How long do you think it could take, or maybe should take, to grow to have $1 million in sales?
Well, I mean, all over the groups and stuff. I mean, there's people who obviously can scale faster than others.
Right.
I'm starting my 7th year. Is that right? Yeah. We finished up 17 through 22 was 6 years. 17 and 18 were just the side hustle, like, let's see where it goes. And then I left my full-time job late in 18 going into 19. So from 19, 20, and 21, we were growing exponentially, at least by 65% to doubling every year. Mm-hmm. And then, we didn't do any marketing. So then last year we started to do some marketing. This year we have budgets in place. We have, where we want to spend money, how much money we want to spend. We've kind of nailed down, the revenue generation through different marketing avenues and stuff like that. So you got to think in 5 years, I had no idea about any of that. So someone coming into pressure washing or any other service-based industry for that matter, with the idea of going that route, I mean, 3 years, I mean, I don't see why you couldn't be a $1 million revenue company if you've got a good head on your shoulders and, know about business or pursue business coaching in that aspect and, have some help along the way. Because I didn't know anything about the business structure essentially.
Right. Well, that's why I said it was a loaded question, because I think you could absolutely, of course, depending on market and, all those kinds of things, I think you can build a business that will do $1 million in sales fairly easily within 2 years. I think it could even be done within 1 year. If I were to fire up again in a different area and, had the right population bases and that sort of thing, based on knowledge, and the thought processes of systems and all that, which is what we're here for this evening, all of those things, I believe I could, year and a half, I could start hitting that $1 million in sales.
Absolutely.
Because of what I already know. And that's the problem when you get started. And that's why systems become super important. So to me, systems are about not just growth of a company, right? If you want to grow your company, scale your company, get off the truck and all of these things, that's what systems help you do, right? But you've got to know what systems and, all that kind of thing. So before we really get into that, when you mentioned that today, I sat down, I was having lunch and I started jotting some notes. So I'm going to go over my list in my notes, and they're not in order, but I'm just going to spit out a whole bunch of stuff, right? And then we can get in, we can talk about what it is that you need and how and where and, what you see and what your views are. So first thing I want to do is, to me, what are systems, right? So to me, systems are a set of rules. They're a set of guides. They're not really the process, but they're part of a process. They're what gets you to that process, right? And that consistency is key. And they're to me, they're very important in any service business that you have. But every process you have, you need like a CRM, which a lot of us talk about all the time anyhow. You need systems for your phone calls, incoming and outgoing. They're two separate parts of that process. A sales system, which, is talked about a lot. A system for your documents. video training systems so that you can onboard employees and exit with employees and all that. So video training systems to me would be a great system. The process of employees. So having systems in place for hiring, firing, days off, what happens when it rains, if you have to suspend somebody for a reason, all of these, there should be systems in place for the process of doing that. Here's another one that I don't think a lot of people think about, and that's inventory. Okay. And what I mean by inventory is you should have a system that takes care of your inventory. Like Ray is going to pop in here. He's got, just hit that blank button, right? Power wash store, all of the parts and pieces. He has to track all of the parts and pieces that are within the power wash store, right? He has to have an inventory program. So what do I mean for that for you and your business would be along the lines of, do you have enough fittings and pieces, and how are you tracking those? Do you have a system to make sure that, you know what, I'm out of O-rings? You don't want to run out of O-rings. You want to make sure you have a system in place that tracks all of that. So an inventory system for your vehicles and maintenance and all these kinds of things, right? So truck maintenance, you should have a system for dealing with upset customers, upset employees, system that deals with your payroll, when to give an employee a raise, onboarding, which we kind of talked about, cash flow. You should have systems that deal with your cash flow and all of the different nuances that go with that, your money management aspects of it, bad checks that might come in, or, accounts payable, accounts receivable, all of that. You should have systems in place to deal with those processes. Something to deal with different reviews, good reviews, bad reviews, how to get reviews, how to turn your employees into sales people, if you would, from that part of it. We're going to talk a little bit about standard operating procedures, SOPs. By the way, Jeremy Kiefer has a whole set of employee manuals and SOPs, and he's given us a code to give to you all tonight that's good for 24 hours, $100 off. I think it's $500 for his system. And then we're actually going to do another interview with Jeremy probably within the next couple of weeks and get into all that kind of stuff as well. But, a system for your marketing, bad weather, which I said, if somebody quits, for everything that you do, every process that you have, a system in place that basically boils down to who is going to do what, right? Why they're going to do it, when they're going to do it. You should have a system in place for your customer experience and your employee experience, right? A key thing that I also wanted to think about was, if you're self-employed, you are the business. If you don't have systems in place that gets you off of the truck, out of the office, doing different things, you are the business, and you're forever going to be the business without systems in place. Systems are going to allow you to control without controlling. If you have a process and you have systems in place that tell everybody what to do, how to do, why to do, where to do, they no longer... It's not something that you now have to sit there and control them. The process and the systems are going to control them. A system to make things quicker or get things done properly, they must be enforced. Everyone is clear on what's expected. They will help you grow by streamlining. We'll talk some about how to create systems, but what's your goal in creating the systems and things of that nature? So a whole bunch of stuff I just threw out there just to start a little conversation side of it. So on your side of it, what do you think is a system that you need or that you're lacking, or do you just have no idea where to start?
Well, I'm actually in the process now, as of the last probably 3 to 4 weeks, of doing a lot of what you mentioned. Everything as far as exit interviews, inventory sheets, maintenance, equipment, truck maintenance, vehicle cleaning sheets, inventory sheets. I'm kind of in the process right now of getting all of that implemented. So as far as the, had a CRM for years. We've been using CallRail for our call system over the past, I think, year or so. We did that when we started ramping up marketing, sending out EDDM flyers, doing Facebook ads, doing, different marketing avenues that we want to track the metrics on and see where everything's coming from. So,
and do you have a system in place to track all of that?
As of right now, we don't have anything set in stone. That's going to be something I'm going to work on. But other than what we get digested within CallRail, and they've actually updated their dashboard now. I've not got to go through it too much, but it gives us call volume based off of marketing channels. So it seems to be doing better. But you could run reports and stuff, I believe, off of CallRail versus call volume per number and stuff like that. So,
and so you have somebody else answering your phones for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got an office.
And do they have a script?
That's something else. That's something else that we're again. There was this time last year. There was no systems. It was me in my head here.
So you are the system.
Yeah, I was the system. So now getting all of that out and getting that, to everyone else. And now we know, hey, this is how we answer the phone. This is how we prompt what we want from a customer. This is how we get to the next step. Are they a returning client? Are they a new client? Are they tire kicking? That kind of thing. What do they want from us, and how to go about handling it? If a client calls in with an issue, what's the script for that? How do we handle that? How do we document that? Who was on the truck? Who went to that house? All of those things have to be documented. So again, those are all in the works. It's just when you look at all of them, there is a lot.
There is. And
if I could add in here, Michael made the comment. How do you start the systems or something like that? A little bit back. How do you stay consistent? And it doesn't take long to form a habit, and you just have to for any systems to work, you just have to wind up forming a habit with these systems. And I remember something that I was always very, very habitual about doing before and after portfolios for large commercial, jobs. And I can't tell you how many times I was late for Sunday dinner because a lot of our large jobs got done on Sundays. And Tanya was like, hey, why aren't you home yet? And I was on working on the weekends, but I just demanded that the before and after pictures, the accountability photographs, the portfolio was going to be in that manager's inbox come Monday morning. Whenever they came in and they were presented a bill for $5, $10, $15, $40,000 for that weekend's job, I wanted it to be in their inbox sitting there.
You knew that they would have it.
Yes.
Yep.
And it's just, is that a system? Well, yeah, it's a system. It was a system that I did. I didn't have an automated way of doing it, but it was just one of those things that would be a checkbox on a system. No job is complete until the before and afters are sent.
Mm-hmm. So let me go back and address this one that you were talking about from Michael J. Right? How do you stay consistent with keeping or adapting to a regimen with these systems? I have House Call Pro, and it's a lot to get used to. Okay, so I'm stopping it right there because there are a lot of great CRMs and other systems out there, and you can run into system overload. And this is what I was saying too. Sometimes you need a system to keep track of all the different systems that you have going on, right? That we're talking about, and it can be overwhelming and overbearing, and that's not really what you want. I'm not going to pick on the CRM that I was using, but I tried a CRM that was very robust. It had so much to it that it created system overload, and I would spend all my time dealing with that one system. And so I moved away from that system and simplified to another much simpler system that accomplished the goals that I wanted. So that's part of your systems, are identifying what your goals are and what you want in your systems so that you don't run into that system overload.
You can't over systemize things if you're not careful. Mm-hmm. One of the hallmarks of Crystal Clean in any of their trucks if you go and look at it, but it can be kind of for our lives as well. But everything in its place and a place for everything. Mm-hmm. And if you go and look at one of their, large trucks that's in the Tallahassee or Jacksonville or really any of the areas, the custom ladder racks, and it's going to have a cone holder, and it's going to have, a this holder and
all
a that
in the same
holder.
Place.
And, you've seen the trucks out there, and it's like they spend a little extra money to have these holders, but everything's got to have its place. And that's kind of key. And I would even say that, a good way to start is even on our trailers or our trucks. And, if you're the kind of guy that just piles everything in the bed of the truck or in the trailer and hopes for the best, wow, I'm getting pointed at. But
I was there.
I've been there, done that, and it is a nightmare.
and honestly, it probably reflects, and God knows, I mean, I'm so guilty of it, but it probably reflects how your business is running as well too. If you throw it all in there and it's a hunk of junk and you can't find anything, and you're just, well, I might need this and I might need this, but you don't have any organization just to the one microcosm of your truck. Well, now think about that going out to 3 and 4 trucks. Think about that to your, Tanya used to always tell me I didn't have a filing system. I had a piling system at my desk, and things just got into piles. And then you look over at her desk, and it's just like this neat little oasis of Formica where everything was put away.
Yeah, nice and neat.
Go into the truck and kind of adding on to that. So, and that's that's another one of our long-term goals. Right now, we've got the trailer. It's pretty well structured. We're going to essentially mimic that, and we're going to switch to trucks and skids. Once we get to that point, we're actually going to do away with the trailer, go to another truck and skid, and then everything from there on out, they will be set the exact same.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. The plumbing will be ran the same. The outlets will be the same. The storage will be the same. The inventory will be the same. Each truck, it doesn't matter who goes and gets in what truck.
Yep.
The trucks will be the same. There won't be
That's
any questions
where
something is.
I'm going to throw something at you there on that, and that is systems are great, but the best system can change, right? So even though you've got everything running the same and going the same and doing the same, and you want everything to be the same, you have to remember that sometimes somebody comes up with something that makes changing that particular system or a part of that system makes it even better. Then you make the change, right? So don't be stuck with, okay, this hose has to run this way because it runs that way on all the trucks, and I want everything to be identical on every truck. If it makes more sense to go ahead and move it over here, then maybe you do that, but then you do it to all the trucks at a later date and time. And
I'll give you a great example.
Michael J said good, not God, because earlier he said God when he meant to say good, but God is good. So just
I'll give you a great example of that. So, about 6-7 years ago, we started running, direct amounts of hose instead of the reels were there for storage essentially at that point, instead of the reels being there for everything plumbed into the system for a few different reasons. And mainly it was probably for efficiency to run everything through the reels, but at the same time, we were missing some distance and we're becoming less efficient on some of these taller houses that we did. But, I was keyed into my mind that, okay, I've got to have this 200-foot hose right here, and I've got to have a 300-foot spray hose, and it has to be plumbed to the reel. But then all of a sudden, we started using the reels as just purely storage areas and plumbing up direct to the pumps instead, and cutting the hoses into 50-foot sections, and sometimes on the supply lines, even 25-foot sections out there. And we've always done it with 300 and 200-foot sections, but it actually changed our lives by only pulling off
what you need.
25-foot sections
Yeah,
and
exactly.
direct tying them in, and only pulling out 100-foot sections of hose on a small house. It wound up making us more efficient, and part of it was just getting over ourselves and having to make the change.
Yeah, we went that same route too. When I first set everything up, I kind of had, again, going back to being new, I had no clue what I was doing. So I knew that you could run water through the hose reel. It had a stainless manifold, great, it's not going to rust, so run it through. But then if we wanted to keep the extra hose, we're either piling the hose in the back of the truck, or we have 300 feet we have to reel off. And you can't just reel off 100 feet because of the backlash. You have to reel off every bit of the hose anyways. So, we ended up running sections on all of that too. And it speeds up progress so much more. You pull off what you need, you plug it in. If you need another 50 foot, you plug it in, or whatever, so on and so forth. So everything's on a whip line all the way back to the back of the trailer.
Yep. I learned something talking about, things like that. We were on a real large project, and I was working with another company on this. They were helping us with some of the rinsing, and I'll never, ever forget, but he had put DN10s along in, because it was a mess. We were doing a large roof project, and we had a lot of rinsing to do, and just how smart he was about this. And we started doing the same thing, but on these large projects where you had guys running around and somebody in a lift and somebody on the ground, he was going, and every 100 foot of pressure hose that he had, he was putting a DN10 valve in there. And a lot of guys would be like, well, that's just really wasteful. I mean, you got, $200 worth of DN10s out there, but
it's not wasteful. You never have to shut down and take a section out and put a new section in.
Never had to shut down. Never had to turn that machine off. Whenever we got the lift went over and we made a pretzel on there. Oh, hang on 1 second. Click, snap, boom, done.
Yep. Huge. Yeah, stuff like that you learn as you go, obviously. But
and let's face it too. Whenever you're getting up here, and okay, there's a ton of us that are struggling, to go and hit the six figures, and then there's a lot of people that have gone and gotten, well into the six figures, and they're at the $200,000 level. Well, whenever we're at that $200,000 to $300,000 level, now all of a sudden our money gets made around the margins, and especially sub or positive 200, 250. If you can be 10% more effective on a job, if you can be 10% more effective in the office, if you can be 10% blah, 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 now all of a sudden we're 10% of 300,000 is $30,000. I mean, it's if you could be 10% more effective on your Christmas lights out there, how huge is that number?
Exactly. Real quick with Todd here, he's saying, about what's up, guys. He's in the same position as Mitchell. One of the things I want to point out with systems, and I am not saying that this should be a system, but it's a way to get you started in your systems. Even because one of the things that you're talking about, Todd, you're saying, order inventory, etc. Why not a spreadsheet? Okay. And the reason I'm saying a spreadsheet to get you started on your system to figure out what it is that you want or need. If you have a spreadsheet, and there are different programs and things you can get, and you say, I need to have X number of DN10s. And Michael's asking what a DN10 is. It's a ball valve. Okay. It's a quarter turn ball valve. Anyhow, so you want to always have 5 of those in stock. And, you have it in there, and so that it'll change things to red and say, you're almost out of DN10 valves. That way, that is at least the beginning parts of the system. Even if you just have it as a spreadsheet to say, I need to do this, you can keep track of that stuff. You can get started with it that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. A starting point. And I guess kind of, a big part of this is going to be, for me early on, I wish I would have had started building some sort of systems, regardless of what they would have been. Writing on a piece of paper, doing a spreadsheet, doing, whatever it may be, to start systemizing certain aspects, because now I'm at a point to where
you need the system and you don't have it.
This whole huge elephant that I have to digest at one time, essentially. But if I would have done it, one step at a time along the way, sat down for an hour a week or something like that. And it's like, hey, I know I need these things on the truck. Why don't I write that out and say, I need to make sure I've got a backup hose at the house. I keep 2 ball valves on the truck. I keep these nozzles on the truck. We've got, now I'm starting to get this system that I can build off of instead of having to create when you're to the point of, holy crap, I don't have any systems in place.
Well, and what you're speaking of that, I mean, that's actually a very real thing that a lot of people get gripped by, this just paralysis on doing that. And it sure is a lot easier to start out that way. But let's face it, most of us don't. Most of us go in here starting out in this company flirting with legality of the way we're even running it. And it's so much easier to build along the way than try to stop at one time and reinvent the whole wheel. If you can even, and this sounds horrible. It sounds really, really, really scary about this, but if you can, it's eating an elephant. I mean, getting organized in this, it's literally eating an elephant. It just starts with one bite at a time. And you got to say, okay, let's get the trucks organized, or the truck organized. Let's get the trailer organized. Let's get the office organized. Let's get my photographs organized on the phone, kind of thing. I mean, you don't have to sit there and say, I'm going to go and redo spray wash from ground zero.
Right.
So one of the things that I'll encourage you to do is get one of these. Okay. It doesn't matter which one you get, right? I used to use these a lot. It's like a day timer, just you open it up and it's got all the stuff in it, right? And I switched to these. I like the smaller ones, but the reason I'm bringing this up is this is where your systems can start. Okay. And the reason I'm saying that is that when you're talking, Mitchell, about, you're going to and from jobs and all that. And, a lot of times those thoughts pop into your head while you're going to and from jobs, or while you're on a job, and that pops into your head, run over and write it down. Or I kind of got really good at driving, and I can sit here and I can write stuff right now while we're talking. I can write down virtually anything I want on a page. It may not come out all that great, but when you're doing something like that and you've got that, oh, you know what, I need to remember to do this. And you just kind of write all of that down. And then that's how you start building your process to be able to create your system, or to find the systems that you want or that fit your needs.
Hey, Doug,
yeah.
The 80s called, they want their notepad back.
Yeah. Now you got these.
It's funny because I was just about to say, I mean, even to simplify, I mean, we've all got a cell phone in our pocket. Pull it out and record a video real quick. I mean, you can touch the camera and record a video and say, hey, I need to do this, this, and this. Bam, you've got a 10-second video you did while you're walking around somewhere. Yeah. I mean, it literally, knowing where I am now, what I know now, anything.
I make so many notes on my phone that's just in the little note app,
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually do have a note app. I'll just let everybody know I do have it. It's on my phone, that kind of thing. And Dave is absolutely right. I mean, and that was part of what I said in the beginning. You have to start with an objective. What is your goal? What is it that you're trying to get to before you can actually start building your systems as well? You have to know what the plan is to get there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whiteboards. I mean, whenever Doug and I kind of formalized the classes on the academy, and we still have it, but we got those big, and you had to get a giant, you had to spend the money on a industrial sized whiteboard. We went in there and bought
two.
We bought the well, they're shower panels, like wipe on. That's the same thing as a whiteboard, but they're shower panels for building a bathroom. Yeah. And we screwed those into the office walls, and that was our whiteboards on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mitchell, what's holding you back from getting your systems in place, or the systems that you feel you need to have?
Before it was kind of knowing where to start. Now I've kind of got groundwork in place, and getting things built. So I kind of have a better idea of what my needs are, essentially. I know where I want to be in 2 years. I know how many people I want to have. I know how many crews I want to have. I know what revenue mark I want to be at. I know, I didn't know these things a year and a half ago. I'd never asked myself these questions. I knew that I was supporting my family and supporting me. And then, we kept growing and getting busier, and my time became less and less and less. I was gone more. I was working more. I was, all of those things. So now as we get to a point to where I can't do everything, I need to have the things in place so, it can be done with me not being present.
Do you ever have days where you're not rushed to get a job done? This job should take you 4 hours, but really it's the only job you've got. So you could take 5 or 6 if needed, kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely.
So during those times, have you ever created training videos?
No. And that's literally something I started about 3 weeks ago. The first thing I've started on is CRM. So using Loom to create screen recordings with obviously face recordings while you describe, and you can do a full walkthrough of, you can do short videos, short, long, however you want to do it. Go through, the step-by-step of how to add in a customer, how to schedule a job, where to add in notes. You can do all of those things in a training video step-by-step. They're watching it happen on screen. And that's essentially the plan that we're going to do, once we get back. Our weather here's crappy, so we don't start washing for about another week and a half, 2 weeks.
Perfect time to start building systems.
Yeah, exactly. So being off the truck has, allowed me, hey, I'm taking today and I'm going to go out. I know the guys have this job. We're going to go record and do some training for roof cleaning. I know they're going to be doing house and driveway tomorrow. I'm going to go and record, and we're going to do that and, get all of that and put it in folders. And now we have all of this training material that can be done in a matter of, hours of being in the field that's now in place for any future employee that comes into, our company.
And when you get to the point and you, what is it that you are, I'm going to say, bad at in your business? What is that one thing that you're just not very good at?
That's actually a question I've not really asked myself too much. It's kind of because I've worn all the hats, so I've had to,
You wear all the hats. You're not good. Not every hat fits you very.
No, you're right.
Wait, what's something that what hat doesn't fit you very well?
I'm not a marketer, so I don't do marketing. I don't do ads. I don't do, anything like that. So does that count?
So look at it this way. If you eventually hire somebody to do that marketing for you and that advertising for you, and that's a little bit different because a lot of times guys outsource that. But if you do it in-house and they're good at it, have them create the videos, for the company. You see what I mean? I suck at office work. Ray sucks at something. I don't know what he does, but I know that he's not very good at something, right? And so you take those things that you're not good at, you hire somebody to be in your place and have them create the videos that you don't want to do because you suck at it anyhow. You see what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I still don't 100% know what I want my full position to be in the company long term. I really enjoy all aspects of it. But I can't run the company from being on the truck, but I really enjoy sales. I like going out and meeting with the clients and being personable with clients. And I may always stay in that role. We don't do hardly any commercial. All of our work is residential. That's pretty much what we've built off of. We may start getting into commercial, or it may get to a point to where we need commercial. I'm not a salesperson. If I had to say I'm bad at one thing, it's probably being a true salesperson. I can go out and talk to clients all day and upsell their jobs and stuff like that. But, calling around and being a salesperson, that's not me.
Well, is it you're bad at it or you just don't like it too? And that's, there's, because there might be things that we just frankly don't like doing that, hey, as the business owner, you don't necessarily have to do it. And ironically, probably one of the easiest areas that you can sub out is the salesperson.
Yeah.
If you think about it, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, that's potentially probably where we would go with that route. That's not something I would look to handle.
So you're probably better at sales than you realize, because what you're talking about is, the building of relationships. But what I think you pretty much should mean by that, and maybe that's what you mean, but you don't realize that you mean it, is having a system in place for sales. Okay. So like having a training program to teach sales to salespeople. There are different processes in the sales cycle that you can do that help create those upsells and help get everybody to a selling point. I think you should even have a system in place that teaches your employees how to sell when they're not even salespeople, or they're not trying to sell, right? Or they're not trying to upsell. So just even the mentioning of, hey, did you want us to do your windows when we're done here? It's like an extra, X number of dollars per window. Did you want that? Have a system in place that helps them bring on that additional revenue for the company, and maybe a revenue share or something to that nature that the salesperson maybe couldn't quite capture. But you're probably better at it than you realize. So sit down, and the next time you go out and do a sales call, if you would, one of the things that I did, and hey, modern technology, I'm just going to say it. I used modern technology. I took my phone and I had it, in my pocket upside down, and I had it on video. Okay. I had it upside down. So I wasn't videoing the person, but what I was trying to do was capture what I was saying so that I could change that into a sales script and help myself stay on track for my sales script and be able to share that with others. So use that modern technology to because sometimes you don't even realize what it is that you're saying, or you're like, man, I really did great on that sales call, but I don't know why. You can go back and capture why it was that you did really well, or that you stunk.
Yeah.
There's some really good, and you need to, I guess if you're going to analyze that yourself and never, but some states actually have a little bit of a problem with that. Like Florida, you can't technically record anybody without their knowledge. But
so check your state laws before you start recording people.
Check with your state, because there's one-party consent laws and two-party consents. Mm-hmm. So Clearwater Pro Wash, how many trucks to get to your million for residential mostly? It's going to depend on your market, but I'm going to say between 3 and 4.
3 and 4 is what I would say.
A truck can easily do 200,000. We were kicking 300,000 per truck at ours. So 3 to 4.
Yeah, I think a residential truck, the average across the nation seems to be about 250, right? And I've seen some guys say they can do up to 350, and some guys saying I can't get past 150, but I think that's a good number.
I met somebody at one of them, and he was, he was kicking off 400, I think he said 425 on his residential truck. And I was just like, wow, that is really, really amazing. But then I also found out that like 80% of his work involves paver sealing as well, which is obviously a much higher ticket and also has a much higher, cost on there. Because if you're doing $400 and some odd $1,000 in mostly paver sealing, you've got a lot of expenses on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Joe got is most people starting out owner operators in the field doing it all. What's a good company to take phone calls?
What's the company you said you were using
to answer phone calls?
Yeah,
we use Jill's office, and we mainly. So I started using them prior to having anyone in the office. and we still utilize them even with someone in the office. We do that because if the phone's tied up and it comes to me and I can't get it, somebody's going to answer the phone. So I'll live by your all's answer the damn phone. And if you call in, somebody's answering the phone. They're 24-hour service. They can call me at 8 o'clock at night and somebody's answering the phone. There's really no reason they'll get a voicemail. They have packages based off of, I think it's based off of minutes used or what you think you're going to use, and you can adjust different packages. But yeah, we utilize Jill's office. They're great. They're super professional when they speak with clients. They're awesome. So
I've heard a lot of good things about Jill's office.
I think there's another one out there. I can't remember.
There's several of them out there. But
yeah. And
I'll say this.
Do your research, obviously, on whoever you choose. Maybe call in and see how they talk, how they answer, how they interact, but yeah, they're killer. So
I'll say this about answering the phone, because we harp all the time about answer the damn phone, answer the damn phone, answer the damn phone. However, I will say that, there is an hours thing, right? If you have your hours listed from, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., that's the time that the phone should be answered, right? Not that you can't answer them after, having because most time you call someplace, that it's a call center, right? It's not the business. I can tell most time, if I call someplace and they say, they answer the phone and I'm like, this is an answering service, isn't it? Yes, it is. Okay, great. I'll just call back. So people can generally pick up, I think, on that. Answer the damn phone. But if it's after hours, I think it's okay not to have it answered.
Yeah. I would tell you a simple pleasure that I have every now and then. I like to call Bobby Walker's Jill's office and say, hi, this is Ramon. We met at the club. I really need to talk to Bobby and tell him I've got this nasty infection that you need to go see a doctor about. And just leave that message. And it's just because they never really quite know how to respond to that.
I guarantee you he gets that exact message and he's like, who is this?
Yeah. So
Dave was saying Reception HQ. Not familiar with that one, but I mean,
I've never heard of them.
Dave says it. I would believe it. So
there you go. Yeah. So operating procedures. Do you have anything like that in place?
Not really. I mean, again, it's all been based off of. We've got. So you spoke on Jeremy Kiefer stuff earlier. I think 2 years ago I did purchase some of his material. Safety, employee handbook. Kind of that bundle of stuff that was in there. I've had it for several years, but we're revamping a lot of that now. Kind of going through everything, but. As far as SOPs go, it's been me pretty much train and hope it gets done that way. Thankfully, I have a lead tech who is been a godsend and really, really, handles things as if it's, this was his business. So as far as even our before and afters, documentation, interaction with clients, all of those things he has been really, really good at, and I'm very fortunate for. And finding that would be very hard again. So, but I mean, as far as written SOPs, we don't really have much.
Gotcha. So what I just did was I just loaded up. This is what Jeremy sent me earlier today. Here's what's in the packet: policies and procedures, employee new hire packet, safety manuals, and employee handbooks. This is a packet that deals with company policies and employees. It's a company safety manual. I mean, because he got in trouble once, right? And so all of those different things. And then he's got the employee handbook as well. And we have, so one of the things that I know that Jeremy does, and I see now that he's on here, one of the things that he does is he sends it all to you in a Word document that you can alter. You can make it, more for your state, your local, your local area for regulations and such, and put your logos on it and do all that kind of stuff. Right.
Yep.
And to me, that's an important part of all of that. and wiping out the things that you don't need. Just like Ray was saying, I mean, some states are at will and some are not, right? So like, I know I can record one-way conversation. I can record a conversation without the other person's consent. Okay. And when I was saying that, I'm referring more to recording me than I am to recording them. Right. But I can record both sides of the conversation as long as they're here in Louisiana. If I'm talking to somebody outside, they may not have that same rule or law. So that's one of the things about his stuff, having it in the Word document. And we've referred Jeremy lots of times. We don't make anything off of it. Like, we don't make anything off of everybody that we refer off to and all that kind of stuff. But never had any complaints coming back. So putting you on the spot, any complaints with his stuff?
Yeah, no. I mean, again, in, let's see, 2020 was when I hired my first employee, and I've been using his documents, since our first hire. So we pretty much just went through everything, made it our own. Like you said, added logos, restructured some wording to kind of fit us, that type of stuff. The employee handbook, the acknowledgement, the cell phone policy, I believe, is in there for cell phone usage on company time and trucks, all of that kind of stuff. There's several things in there that we still utilize right now for those specific things. So, but.
Well, yeah, and we'll have Jeremy back.
I think he has an SDS. I think Jeremy has a SDS packet.
He does. He has SDS.
If I'm not mistaken. We took all of. I think I went through the Pro library one day and literally downloaded every single SDS sheet out of there, printed it off, and just built a folder out of that too. So.
Yeah, I mean. And all of that is because I think, like on my trucks, I had Jeremy's SDS sheets, and it's great because of the binder that it comes in, and it's all there, and then you can add to it and take away from it. There's no reason to ever take anything out of it, but you have to keep in mind that everything that you have on your truck, just having a system in place that identifies everything on the trucks, right? Or that identifies what you're supposed to do with everything on the trucks. Because as you're building a new truck, you have to remember that, like the water, for example, you should say non-potable water on there so that it identifies it as water. And then that way, if you ever do get stopped, because they're going to want to charge it as the worst thing that you're carrying on your truck, or they could, right? Yep. So just having the different systems in place that allows that to happen is something that's important.
Yeah, we've never, knock on wood, we've not been stopped by, I guess it would be highway patrol or anybody like that. We were working in a subdivision one time and had the Department of Agriculture stop and wanted to know what was in all of our tanks, because you have to have a spray license in Tennessee to spray EPA registered products. Well, most of the bleach that people get is EPA registered.
Right.
If you go to Walmart and you buy generic bleach and you look on the back of it, it's going to have their EPA registration number. If you take that and say, "Oh, this is the bleach we're spraying from Walmart," they're going to say, "Well, that's EPA registered. Are you certified to spray that? Do you have I think it was a Class C spray license or something like that?" I can't remember exactly. But fortunately, what we were spraying was non-EPA registered bleach, and we had an SDS form for that. So, I mean, literally the booklet saved us in, that aspect. We had to pull out all of our SDS sheets for Apple Wash because we had red Apple Wash in the tank. They wanted to know what that was. They wanted to know, all of those auxiliary tanks that had random chemicals in it. They wanted to know what they were they EPA registered? Were our acids EPA registered? We had to pull all that stuff out for the Department of Agriculture.
Wow.
One of my favorite stories ever was the Louisiana Department of Agriculture that sent somebody a cease and desist, and he thought he was gonna Well, I mean, he didn't know any better, but he should have gotten some advice on that. But he got, the cease and desist sent to him because he said mold removal, and Louisiana was one of those states where you're supposed to have your mold remediation license. Well, he's like, well, wait, it's not that kind of mold removal. It's soft washing. And they said, well, send us what it is that you're spraying. And they said, so he sent an SDS that he just went online and got.
12.5%.
And sure enough, he got one for 12.5% that said, I'm spraying a pesticide, not a sanitizer. And they then gave him another cease and desist letter because he didn't have his pesticide applicator's license for Louisiana.
Yeah.
I
mean, that goes down to, local governments obviously are going to change a little bit and vary a little bit depending on what it is. But, just thankfully we, at that point in time, kind of, knew that, hey, we can't be spraying this because of this. Mm-hmm. So there's a little bit of a workaround, but.
And if you ever have an accident or they will want to see where your SDS, folder and sheets are. You better have that on there. You just better. And Jeremy's put some stuff up here. What all's in that his package. And one of the things that I saw, very important is the hazard communication sheet on there. And whenever you start getting into some larger commercial things or working at industrial sites, I have had to submit hazard communication forms and protocols several times with some of these larger bids because they want to know, they want to see a safety plan. They want to see hazard communication. They want to know that we know what the heck they're talking about.
Even when they don't sometimes, just so you know.
They may not know what it is, but it's on a checklist that they have in their system that says hazard communication form. They don't even know it necessarily a hazard communication form, but it's on their system, like, what we're talking about right here. And by gosh, you better put one in there or you may not get the job.
Mm-hmm. So Mitchell, what other systems do you feel like you need or that and do you have any systems so far?
Again, pretty much everything I'm working towards right now is, pretty much getting everything out of my head and onto paper. So everything, we've got a couple of main things that I just got, our vehicle inspection sheets finished. I got our equipment inspection sheets finished. Those are to be done, first thing Monday mornings, inspecting, from front of truck to rear of trailer, oil, tires, fluids, lights are working, machines are, they're not due for a change. If they are due for a change, how long do we need to do them? We've gotten that, gotten those things in place and start getting those in the spring. So, and I've got stacks of paper all around my desk right now behind me that are essentially going through like building out checklists and stuff as far as what we need. So it's a big work in progress. And I've probably still got 50 plus hours worth of work that's going to go into getting all of those documents kind of ready.
There's also an app out there called Zoho, ZOHO.com, and you can custom build checklists on that. And I know several companies use the vehicle checklists on that. And what's nice about it is, the lead tech literally walks the vehicle, checks it. You can make it where he puts the mileage in there. You don't have to do that. But it's him certifying that, turn signals are good, fluids are good, oil is checked, all that. But then it also works as far as if you ever get pulled over by a DOT stop where you can say, here's my Zoho checklist that we just did this morning. And it will really help you in a lot of situations whenever your tech is able to produce a written or online documentation that we did a vehicle walk around this morning, that we've gone and checked the turn signals, that we've checked the running lights, that, we've made sure there's not any leaks on the truck.
And that's another thing in the systems realm, right? I mean, what happens if you get pulled over? You should have a process that, of what happens if an employee gets pulled over, and for them to know what it is that they're supposed to do, because they may get pulled over for speeding, but then they get hit on for the chemicals, and they need to know how to react and what to do and what to say and how to say and why to say, those sorts of things, so that they're not creating a problem for your company that you didn't need to begin with. And, because stuff happens. They may get pulled over for no reason at all other than their commercial vehicle running down the road. Doesn't happen very often, but it does happen.
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, with most of your commercial vehicles, they don't have to have a reason to stop you other than to check.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
you literally, one of my, another story, again, so much of what I've been through in my life is just, from experience. We always laugh that the plant and property protection is what Doug and I experienced, not from what we learned necessarily, but I was coming out on 231 in Panama City, and Tim and I were riding together. We had gone over and done a church. That was Tim's new truck. His new Isuzu. Zero lettering. This is as Tim was really starting to scale back. He built that incredible stealth rig on an Isuzu with a small bed on it. And, no signage whatsoever. The only thing that you could even tell, there was a proportioner license plate on the front of that truck. No phone number, no anything. And we got pulled over by FHP. And he came up to the car, and Tim's a badge public service employee. And we literally were saying, we were really nice and just saying, gosh, we're asking these questions because we want to know. We're not, bucking the authority whatsoever. Can you please tell us? And asked this officer, so why did you pull us over? He's like, well, it's a compliance inspection. I'm allowed to. And Tim said, well, I'm just curious, but I'm not, I'm under 10,000 pounds. I'm not FDOT. Here's, on the title of the truck, here's my registration. I'm at like 9,200 pounds. And the officer said, right, but if you look over your left-hand shoulder on this Isuzu NPR, there's a yellow sticker that says this vehicle's rated for, 12,500 or 14,500 pounds. Mm-hmm. He said, that gives me the authority to pull this vehicle over because I know this is a commercial rated vehicle. I'm not saying you are over 10,000, but you're capable of doing that, Right. And then he kind of looked back and he's like, yeah, and this doesn't look like your average truck either. We all kind of had a little good laugh there. But, the guy really taught us a lot of very, very good information about that. And, ironically, the only thing that Tim got a warning for was no cones. No, I'm sorry. No,
he had cones. He didn't have triangles.
He didn't have 3 triangles. Now, here's the irony of it. He had 6 cones, literally 6 orange cones on that truck, but they were 18-inch cones, non-reflective. And we even said, well, there's 6 cones and you're busting us for not having 3 triangles. He said, right, those aren't reflective cones. I mean, I'm just, and it didn't require an appearance or anything. It was just a promise to do better. But he said, I'm going by the regulations, and it says that you're going to have a box of 3 reflective triangles in here whenever you're on a commercial truck.
So would he have accepted the cones had they had the reflective tape around the top?
Yes, he would have.
That's what ours have. That's the
hold on. If they were the DOT approved cones.
Right. I was going to say, you still have to have the DOT
approved.
approved.
We're actually taught, because DOT says that cone has to be, and I apologize that I forget right now. I don't know if it was bigger than 18, I believe. I think it may have had to be a 24-inch cone with the reflective on there. But yes, he would have accepted that if it had the reflecting was the correct size.
If you go and you look at cones, the DOT ones, the DOT approved, literally have DOT approved written on them, and that's the thing you have to have. If it doesn't say anything on it, even if it meets all of their guidelines, if it doesn't say DOT approved, they can still nail you for it.
Yeah, I would have to check ours. I know ours are pretty. They're pretty tall. We keep 4 of them on the truck. They're pretty tall and have the 2 strips of reflective tape around the top of them. So, that's all like little nuances that, again, going back to, not really knowing, when we start out and stuff, that's all little nuances that, I mean,
that you
don't know anything about until you experience it.
I remember doing a bank, and it was on US Highway 90, which is now, a federal road, US Highway 90. And we had to move a lift around there on the same day that they were doing some road work. And we were, taking the 85-foot lift and moving his cones. And I remember the supervisor of that coming up, to us, and he was just watching us, and he was moving the cones. And I went over and I apologized. And I said, look, I'm more than happy to get these cones moved back. I said, just say the word. I said, I'm sorry, we got to move him to move the lift. He's like, no, it's not a problem. And I said, well, let me move the cones for you. He's like, I just can't do that because I have got these DOT regulations about how far the cones have to be from one another, how what kind of line they have to be in. I have to I'm literally accountable for that. And if I've got one that's 36 inches instead of 30 inches, and I'm using that as just an example, he said, I literally could catch a fine for every one of those cones that's out of place. He said, so even though I trust you, I appreciate it. He said, this is my job as supervisor to make sure all these cones are properly done.
Yeah. So Bill has a question here. Would a Google Drive PDF be acceptable, or does it have to be a hard copy in the truck? And it goes on for a couple other things. So let me tell you how I understand that rule. And a PDF, a Google Drive PDF will not be acceptable. The reason that it would not be acceptable is it has to be readily accessible. Okay. So you're going to say, well, but it's right there on my phone. I've got the drive. No. What happens if your truck rolls and you become incapacitated? You can't tell them that you've got a PDF on a drive here or whatever. So it has to be readily accessible. It has to either be, I believe it's in the driver's door pocket or
arm's reach.
Yeah, within arm's reach. So right there, like in the center console, or maybe even right there on the dash. But it has to be right there in reach of the driver. So a PDF just wouldn't do it. I mean,
and as Jeremy said, it depends a lot on the officer as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
I think everything does, and how you react and act with that officer.
Right. And as Jerry and Leslie said, your fire extinguisher needs to, one for the trailer, one for the truck, has to be secured. And as Jeremy said, it has to be accessible quickly. And what happens if your phone dies or gets smashed?
Mm-hmm. So this is all about systems, right? And all of this falls into place under that systems category. You have to have systems in place, or you should have systems in place that identifies the needs of every truck when a new truck comes in. What does that truck need to have? It needs to have the cones. It needs to have the fire extinguishers. Does it need to have the DOT labeling? Does the driver need to be certified? All these different things that you need to think about, like even in the hiring process, and having systems for that hiring process, a system for creating the proper ad for the proper position that you're hiring for, and then asking the right questions to that person to make sure they have the licenses that are needed, or that they're capable of getting the licenses that are needed, right? Because sometimes they're not capable of doing that sort of thing. Like can't get a driver's license, maybe.
Yeah.
So
can't get a CDL and lots of stuff.
Exactly.
When we get into the FDO, or the not FDOT, but DOT stuff, and you get into a whole different world of headaches and heartaches, and at the PWNA last year, I met the gentleman. He's a retired, 35-year FDOT officer, and that's literally what he does. Is compliant. His new retirement job is compliance for fleets. And I got into the discussion of him with the 8-gallon rule that was out there, the material trade exemption. And that was one that he really scratched his head on, wound up referring him to Crystal Clean. And it's been an interesting debate back and forth about, that job and about that requirement that's out there, because depending on how you want to interpret that, a lot of us could be in violation out there.
And that's the one thing about all laws, is that it is subject to interpretation by the officer on scene. So one officer can interpret it different than another officer can. And that's what the, quote unquote court systems are there for, to settle those disputes, if you would. So remember this when you're doing your systems and you're creating systems, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, Mitchell, but make sure that whatever system you implement, make sure that it works. Meaning that once you've implemented that system and you're starting to see hiccups because, well, I didn't plan on this, I didn't plan on that, whatever that is, that you can change that system and make it better than it was before, or to fit your needs. That was one of the things as we launched Spray Wash Pro that, a lot of guys said, hey, I need something to train my employees with. And that was one of the things I did with my company, was I created training videos for my employees. The problem that you run into with that is that, how do I train your employees on your process? I think that's where, like the plant and property protection, I think that's an awesome tool for training employees, right? Because it helps get them past a lot of the things that we do in this industry. And it doesn't matter if you're a window cleaner, a window licker, or a guy that pressure washes or soft washes. There's so much in there that fits that whole realm. Yeah. But you're going to do something different. And that's why I encourage you to, every day, as you're driving to and from a job site, pull out your phone, put it on the notes, and, record what it is that you thought about, or that you should have done, could have done, would have done, that you can then create a training video with. And if you have that extra time to create those videos so that you can then, that's the best way to replicate yourself, in my opinion, is to create those videos that go over all of those aspects of what you did. And that way they can sit down and they can watch them, and they can come back and they can ask you questions based on that, and make it a better system for you.
Right. Yeah. And that's you're kind of going back to the truck thing and making them all the same and all of that. When I built my first, or when this trailer that was my first, custom build, what it is right now is not anything close to what it started as. That trailer, year after year, has evolved. Yeah. Most of the evolution of that trailer has come since I've been off of the truck, because they have found a better way, or a more efficient way, or, said, hey, we need to change this so we can do this. Okay, great. Let's change it. And we're constantly evolving, that system for the crews. I don't use the truck anymore. Most of the times, if I go out in the field and start getting on the truck, they're like, get the hell out of the way. What are you doing? But that's not how we do that. Right. So, going to the training videos portion, it's going to be going out with my lead and saying, I know how things, yeah. We know how things need to be done. Now let's take what how I want it done and how it needs to be done, and how you do those things, and let's start implementing that into videos that's going to work best to train people along the lines of what you want, who you're working with. And, eventually his goal is to move up into a management position, overseeing crews and stuff like that. So making sure that it's done to those standards.
I tell guys all the time that who come in, when they're starting out their company and they're buying a piece of equipment, and they're like, well, what do you think I should get? And I'm like, it doesn't matter, because it's not what you're going to wind up with.
The only thing that we have that's still roughly the same as when we started is the booster setup,
right?
The booster and proportioner.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to go through so many. You're going to go through half a dozen different iterations of a trailer or a skid before you finally sit with what's right, on there, and it's going to happen,
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and guys, we are at an hour and 15 minutes, so we probably need to start winding down a little bit, even though we've been known to go on for 2 hours. We've been trying to be a little more respectful of time here. So
I just want to know who Jeremy wants to kiss.
Probably me, because of my hair.
Yeah.
And Aubrey just made this comment, trying to make it there one day, haven't figured out how to let go and trust employees yet. Sometimes you just have to, I mean,
that's a hard thing to do.
It is. It's tough. Mitchell, how hard was it for you to get off and to let your employees go?
I remember that day like it was yesterday, watching my truck pull out without me, and sitting there waiting for the phone call.
Yep.
Waiting for the phone call of what got screwed up, the unhappy customer, the whatever it was. Did they run the trailer off the road? Did they, all of those things going through my mind, and the phone call never came.
And then when the phone call does come, it's, man, these guys are awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been off the truck since I went off the truck in 21. So, all of 21, all of 22, and don't think I'll be back on this year. I mean, as much as we're growing and where we're going. So, to this day, we've had minor callbacks, some run outs, it's whatever. I mean, that stuff happens.
Stuff happens whenever, stuff is going to happen, but you know what? Stuff is probably going to happen with you as well too. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it has. I mean, I've had to go back on my own stuff before from time to time.
Me never.
So I guess what I would have to say to that is, I had a huge fear of letting go. I mean, that was a major thing to me, because I was always the one out in the field. My clients knew I would be at their house watching over things. Once I let go and realized it would be okay, and we had the crew, the guys had known, giving you all a plug for the plant and property protection. We send all of our guys, who work for us, to plant and property protection. They sit through the course at the huge. Typically, if they can't get to the huge, we'll do like some online stuff or whatever. But that makes a world of difference. When they hire on, they know what to expect with how we talk to clients, how we conduct ourselves on site. People have cameras everywhere. I don't want to be getting a phone call of you talking vulgar and they heard you on the cameras, whatever. Right. So,
hey, look at. Did you see the rear end on that lady? I mean, you have to.
All of that stuff.
You're always being listened to nowadays.
And I get more phone calls or more emails or more text messages about how happy they were with the performance of our crews, and how respectful they were, and how they handled their, taking care of their property and all of that stuff. So let go of that fear if you went off the truck. And it's part of it, and you'll see that things will go probably a lot different than what you expect.
Yeah.
It's funny. I remember the one time that I had really, it bugged me, and this is going back into some ancient history, but I think I had proportioner number 1 on my truck, maybe 2. And I still remember this would have been 2014, 15 or so. And talking to my lead tech, my main guys, and we had one thing that was still batch mixing, and then one with a proportioner. And the one tech was showing up. He was getting done at 2:00 in the day, And I
Big
sat
thing.
him down and I was really concerned. And I was like, look, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening here. You know, if it's something personal or we need to talk about it, but you know, what you're doing, this is not the spray wash way, because, you know, and I guess you're cutting some corners somewhere, because you're back now every day at 2-3 o'clock, you know, and tell me what's going on, you know, because I want to nip this in the bud before this becomes, you know, a problem with our customers. And he's like, Ray, have you actually used the proportioner? And I'm like, well, yeah, of course I use the proportioner. He's like, no, you don't understand. You've been out with us using the proportioner, but you realize we don't batch mix anymore. You realize that we're saving like 40 minutes a job by
no fill time.
make our mixture.
Exactly.
And we're not having to do this. And I was like, wow. And right then I ordered another, proportional for the other trailer at that point. It's like, yeah, this is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we even put metering valves on our downstreamers because we use like 15 to 17%. So
Right.
we actually put a dual meter on the downstreamers for soap and bleach. It's essentially the same, but when we can dial that thing back to like, I don't know, 3/4 open, maybe a little bit between 1/2 and 3/4 open, and downstream a house. I mean, so no batch mixing at all. It's just all separate tanks. But
Right.
I mean, we're doing anything from a roof to, you know, downstream in a house. And from when I originally started, we've probably cut 50% down on time on a job.
Absolutely.
So
Question.
MCH is asking question, getting ready to start cleaning in town where we had a train derailment and a chem spills, been working with the EPA. Should I be checking with my insurance company for additional coverage? Absolutely. I would, and I would see what the requirements are from the train company and the municipality that is the EPA, and everybody that's dealing with that, and make sure I've got enough coverage.
Yeah, and the insurance company may be able to do like a rider policy and not rework your policy completely. Just do a rider policy specifically for that job.
Yeah.
A rider or a umbrella policy or something, but make sure, because I mean, you could have something in there that you could literally have a line that says you're not allowed to work train derailments in there, that's buried in paragraph 34, paragraph D of part 4.
Of all the crazy exemptions that they have in there, it's insane.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely check with your insurance company on that one.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know, and chances are, will anything ever happen? Probably not, but God,
somebody is going to happen. It's going to happen to somebody.
Yeah.
Just don't want it to be me.
Yep, absolutely.
So I guess as far as our systems and stuff, what we really need is to focus on our, I think our employee systems are the biggest that we need to focus on. Bringing employees in, training, all of that kind of stuff outside of, what's in my head. So
well,
gives me a place to
I
start.
think that's the same for most guys. And being able to get off that truck kind of thing.
Mitchell, I'll tell you something, as somebody that's got 25 or so years on you, or 30. God, I'm old. But, write it down. Just get it out of your head and get it onto paper, get it onto a screen, get it onto something as quick as you can. Because one of the problems that I know I have always been so guilty of is the biggest lie that I tell myself daily is I'll remember that.
I don't know how many times I've thought the same thing, and then I turn around and a squirrel runs across the yard, and I completely forgot everything that went through my head. So
yeah. And as the oldest person here, that happens a lot.
A lot. MTH and Clearwater are having a little sidebar about, that toxic cleanup from, I'm assuming, that Ohio railway thing. And I mean, there's stuff out there that's nasty, guys. There's stuff out there that, a real common acid that we use in this industry is hydrofluoric. Guys, if y'all don't know about hydrofluoric acid and you've never read up on what hydrofluoric can do to you, you're insane if you haven't read up on hydrofluoric acid poisoning, because it will kill you.
Is that the same type of acid that Craig Harrison's got a pretty good but bad story about? I mean,
I believe so. Yeah,
it had him pretty messed up for.
The hydrofluoric is the one that will go and nuke it. It'll literally go. It unlike sulfuric, it doesn't burn. And it'll just go in there and start attacking your calcium. It seeks out calcium.
His was from inhalation, I believe. He's got a pretty good story on it.
And it will nuke your electrolytes, and it will mimic a heart attack.
It'll suck everything out of you.
Wow.
Except they treat it different than a heart attack. And if you don't let people know, I used to tell Tanya, if something should happen to me and you get a call, let them know I was working with hydrofluoric. It's bad stuff.
Mm-hmm. All that.
Mm-hmm. Mitchell, thank you so much. We sure appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you guys. I
definitely
appreciate the years of combined insight and trying to get traction for the most part. That's been my past couple of months, is just really getting traction on where I know we want to go and trying to get everything in place and get that starting point and get what should have been done years ago in order to get to where we want to go. So I know somebody in the comments earlier, I'm not sure who, essentially they said, figure out where you want your business in, long-term, where do you see it, what your retirement looks like, what your end goal looks like, and work it backwards. And, I'm to a point now to where that's essentially where, after having to, reverse engineer where we want to be, in 10, 15 years, and then start building off of that. And then, obviously, if you want to be on the truck owner operator forever, great, awesome. That's what I wanted to do, 3 or 4 years ago. That's where I wanted to be. And now we've changed.
You're young, smart, and driven. So I have no doubt.
And let's face it, I don't think there's any problem in doing it like you're doing. Because I mean, honestly, one of the biggest problems that I see are the guys coming into my store telling me how they are going to do it before they've ever bought their pressure washer, or they're coming in with
they're educating you on how to do it.
They're coming in with the AAA pump on a Honda 270 or equivalent knockoff engine, and saying, I'm going to run multiple trucks and really put this thing on autopilot, and I'm going to do this. But, you can do all the training courses in the world, notwithstanding whether that trainer has ever actually done this. But there's some stuff where you had better actually understand it. And I'm a big proponent of being on the truck for quite a while, so you understand what in the heck it is, and watching those techs and seeing that, because it's real hard to train whenever you yourself don't know exactly what it is you need to be doing out there.
Yeah.
And, and let's say that, you were, Mitchell, you were a place where you had never been on the truck, and you went out and hired somebody absolutely amazing to do it. You had the best lead tech ever. You never really were on the truck. And then all of a sudden that lead tech leaves you for whatever reason.
Can I go back out and pick up on the truck and do what needs to be done?
Yeah. Exactly. And that was something, I remember at one point where we had a little upset in the apple cart, with us, and I had pretty long-term employee get upset and leave. And I had to go and he was doing a lot of my maintenance stuff for me. So for about 2 months, until I could find somebody else, I was back doing the maintenance. And I could have been absolutely a slave to him and go, Oh no, please stand. But he had aberrant behavior that we couldn't put up with, so he had to wind up going. But you don't ever want to feel like you're trapped by an employee that I got to keep them around because I can't do what they do.
Yeah.
Everybody in a business should be replaceable except for you.
Yeah.
And even that,
You should be.
if you want to work your way out of a job, even you should be replaceable at some point.
Yeah, and that's essentially where I'm headed is working myself out of each position as we kind of progress. So, I started. So I don't read very much, but I started reading E-Myth.
Yeah.
And one of the big, if nobody's read it, it's great. I'm probably about halfway through right now, but one of the things that stuck out to me huge in there, don't quote me, this is, kind of along the lines, but employees don't run your business. Employees run the systems that run your business.
Yep.
So get the systems in place and, the employees will run the systems and the systems are what will run the business and so on. And teach them how to use the system and how to use the system properly. And it's, it becomes foolproof then. So that's kind of what we're pushing towards.
Yep.
Love it. That sounds like a good note to end on right there.
That it is.
Thank you very much. We sure appreciate you. And guys, thank y'all all for watching tonight.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Truly appreciate y'all. And remember, we'll do more of these interviews in the upcoming weeks. And if you have a specific topic, please let us know. Doug at spraywashacademy.com, and we'll do what we can for you. Appreciate y'all. Peace out.